Welcome to Lockout Lab, the podcast.
Let's really bring in our favorite Mars in the show, ang ating consciousness king, John Locke. At may royal decree pang, I hereby declare na kapag hindi ka conscious, hindi ikaw yan. True. Sinabi niya yun? Well, parang totoo naman yung sinabi ni Max, no? Kasi si Locke, that's his very philosophy na self is consciousness. Nag-message nga siya sa akin eh. Sabi niya, our self is not our body, also not our soul, and not even our name. Kasi our self daw is our consciousness.
Yon, 100% ka sa akin, be. Sobrang galing mo na. So, tama nga yung sinabi niya, no? Kasi, para kay Locke, kung sa anong era ng tunay na ikaw, you are aware of your thoughts, memories, and experiences. So, for example, ikaw, Nikki, do you still remember what you did during summer way back?
Oo naman, nagpalawan ako.
Okay, tawa na yan.
Okay.
Sige, please share what us
Sige.
next year. So, basically, yan yung philosophy ni Locke na your memory connects your past to your present self.
Totoo naman. Kasi to be honest, who are we nga kung kakalimutan natin yun? Are we even the same person na naka-experience nun? Di ba?
Tsaka yun kasi yung pinaka-pinaparating ng self-is consciousness ni Locke na habang nagre-reflect tayo sa mga nangyari, sa thoughts natin, inaalam natin yung pinaka-nangyari or yung pinaka-experience na naranasan natin, napubuo yung personal identity natin. Kaya sa mga overtaker dyan, may legendary Locke points sa kayo kay Locke.
Thank God.
Okay, girls, summarize na natin yung philosophy ni John Locke. Whenever you think, you are aware that you are thinking.
The self-awareness and consciousness never separates from thinking.
Consciousness is what makes you the same person across time and situations.
So for Locke, what makes you, you? Your personal identity is your consciousness. Not your body or even your soul that defines you, but awareness of yourself.
At ano na nga ba ang i-offer natin sa ating listeners for today?
Since kanina napag-aralan na natin or nalaman na natin yung pinaka-philosophy ni Locke, ngayon naman, we will try to relate his philosophy in the modern day society that we are living in right now. To unpack these four perspectives according sa concept ni Locke. Bali, i-relate natin siya. So, ang topic na natin, di ba, is dementia or Alzheimer's disease.
So, ito yung case na nakakalimot ang isang tao as they age.
So, bali ba kapag tumatanda ka, mas higher yung chance na magdalaman ka?
Good question. Pero not necessarily, guys.
It does not automatically develop sa isang tao just because we are aging. Pero may mga iba't ibang factors kasi na nag-contribute kung bakit nagka-Alzheimer's. Pero to be precise, scientists are still struggling kung paano ma-pinpoint or ano ba yung i-pinpoint nilang pinakadahilan or one exact cause na kung bakit nagka-Alzheimer's sa isang tao. Meron siyang combination ng biological brain changes, pwede rin siyang sa environmental factors, lifestyle, pwede rin ng unknown factors eh. So it's very complex and very fascinating talaga kung ano. Parang very interesting kasi sobrang mysterious na kung paano nag-work eh. Pero that's how our life and brain works. So once the disease progresses, the patient or an individual may suffer from difficulty with episodic memory. Meaning, halimbawa, di ba may, let's say sa isang household,
sabi ni Nikki kanina, na-apektahin niya rin yung nasa paligid natin, which I think relates to my focus, which is yung anthropological factor. Sabi nga ni Aki earlier, this disease is particularly related sa aging. Pero do you guys know why? Why? Kasi it is a biological process that causes the brain cells to die over time and for the brain to shrink. People who suffer from this may affect their memory and ability to continue what they're doing sa pang-araw-araw.
It is relevant sa anthropology kasi when we say dementia kasi, it is not just a brain disease. It is also cultural, social, and relational. There are three things that we should have remembered. Firstly, biomedical. Biomedical kasi ang dementia is specifically Alzheimer's disease is still managed through medical science like drug development, clinical interventions, and different neurological assessments. Parang siyang may scientific medical side ng things. Pero hindi lang basta medical, it's more of kailangan din ng biocultural approach because going to diagnose and care for patients must consider the person's social world. Kung sino yung nakakasalubungan nila, their family, environment, and of course, their cultural backgrounds. Hindi lang pwedeng puro symptoms ang basis natin for this. Kaya, we also have the social, kasi Alzheimer's is not solely a disease, it is socially linked condition. Meaning, iba-ibang way of understanding ng mga tao sa society sa dementia. How families respond, how communities support or fail to support the elderly, how they model normal aging. All of it are social things. And we have to understand that, especially because dementia and Alzheimer's disease affects person's identity, their role in the family, and how they treat in the community. And also, Alzheimer's disease is a social phenomenon as much as a medical one. So, biomedical na siya, social, and last one is culture. Galing, di ba? Thirdly, cultural. The way a society interprets memory loss or confusion varies a lot. In some cultures, forgetting may seem normal. Kasi tumatanda ka na kaya nakakalimot ka na talaga eh. Pero, this behavior is seen as serious medical condition needing immediate care. So, culture affects how we label some things. So, yung mga sakit na akala natin is sa kultura natin is normal lang, hindi natin alam na meron na pala siyang sakit in medical terms. So, altogether, biomedical, social, and culture, the disease becomes more than just a medical one.
Okay, so for now, paano naman makumpleto natin yung four perspectives under the philosophy of John Locke sa situation ng dementia? Ngayon naman, tutungo na tayo sa Eastern and Filipino values.
Dito, ang una natin itatakal is Confucianism. And of course, known ang Confucian values for upholding family harmony. Para sa kanila kasi, human life is of the highest value, di ba? Kumbaga, meron silang tinatawag na filial piety, kung saan ang pinaka-sinasabi lang nito is that kung hindi mo naalagaan yung elders mo noon or ngayon, parang bumagsak sa pagiging tao, parang napakasama mong tao. Kasi para sa kanila, this kind of situation or this kind of illness is a natural part of the yin and yang flow. Alam niyo ba yung yin and yang flow?
Familiar.
Meron silang tinatawag na vitality, ayun yung yang mo, and then this vitality may turn into yin or yung decline ng isang tao. So, in this value, or in this view of Confucianism, ang pinaka-sinasabi lang niya is that it is a moral growth for you to become a better person. Dahil nga human life is of di ba? Ang pinaka-in-uphold na ng value. Meron pa silang sinasabi na family is the supreme social unit. Pero kasi sa mga ganitong bagay, minsan kahit nakaka-drain na, kahit sobrang nakakapagod yung ang dami mong obligation, ang dami mong kailangan tugunan na task. Pero para sa kanila, moral duty mo to give back to your family, to keep the harmony going through sa inyong pamilya. Kaya yung mga shame, reputation, lahat yan nawawala pagdating sa kanila. Kasi para sa kanila yung ganitong illness talaga, it's just a journey for you to be a better person. Pero para naman sa Buddhism, since sabas na tayo sa Confucianism, para naman sa Buddhism, meron silang tinatawag na samsara, di ba? Or suffering. Para sa kanila, life is suffering. Pero para naman kay David Smith, sinasabi ni David Smith na suffering isn't an afterthought. It's the starting point. Kumbaga, ayun yung pinaka-umpisa mo. Dahil para sa Buddhism, you have to embrace it with awareness. Kasi merong tatlong values sa Buddhism na anika, dukkha, and karuna. Kung saan, kung i-connect natin yung dementia dito, it's more of a natural decay of the person instead na nakikita siyang illness. Kasi para sa Buddhism, there is no sense of self or there is no loss of self kapag nagkaroon ka ng dementia. Bakit? Kasi wala ka namang self to begin with. Parang for them, it's just a body. ang pinakamahalaga talaga sa kanila is consciousness. When you have dementia, it isn't the end of personhood. No? It's part of the cycle we all go through, which is the samsara. Kaya naman para sa mga Buddhism, kagaya lang sa Confucianism, hindi siya natural decay ng physical body and mental body mo, but more of a journey towards moral growth pa rin. Pero for them, hina-highlight nila yung compassion. Be compassionate as a person. You should never, no matter how draining or tiring it is, kailangan mo silang tulungan kasi pamilya mo sila eh. It is a dharmic opportunity that pushes us to face suffering head-on. For us to reach enlightenment, kailangan muna natin mag-grow through sa suffering. Kasi ang pinakasasabi lang naman ng Buddhism is that there is no forever. Kaya habang buhay ka pa, habang kaya pa nating alagaan sila, alagaan mo na.
Okay, start ulit tayo sa psychological, guys, ha? Yung sa, in terms of domestic violence. I feel like you discuss yung pinaka-direct victim ng domestic violence. Pero ako, iiba ko yung perspective or titingnan ko sa labas. Kasi, when we say domestic violence, hindi lang siya, not to invalidate anyone, hindi lang siya hindi lang yung direct victim, yung pinaka-victim. Kasi meron din tayong tinatawag yung mga witnesses, or yung exposed sa domestic violence. Halimbawa, yung mga child, or mga children sa household na nilaganap or nangyayari yung domestic violence. Pero bago yan, bigyan na tayo ng brief viewpoint kung ano mga ba yung domestic violence. So, kapag kasi sinabing domestic violence, it is not just physical injury na ini-inflict mo sa isang tao. Pwede rin kasi, pwede rin maging pattern of controlling or coercive or threatening behavior, violence, or abuse with adults. Then, nakikita nga ng bata na yun. Hindi na siya in terms of physical, pwede rin sexual, pwede rin emotional, pwede rin financial mismo, pwede rin financial harm. So, parang hindi uniform or identical yung na-experience ng mga victims ng domestic violence. On the other hand, legal definitions may restrict the terms to overt physical harm or its threats. Kasi mas naiintindihan dito yung role, yung kung saan nakatayo or kung saan nakaposisyon yung bata na witness ng domestic violence. So, kapag kasi sinabing exposed yung isang bata sa domestic violence, parang na-apektuhan din natin yung paglaki niya eh. Yung emotional to growth trajectory ng buhay niya. Kasi kapag sabi natin exposed siya, parang araw-araw na ganyan, may isip na ganyan. Parang naapektuhan din yung way of thinking niya about his childhood, about his life. Parang naiisip niya na yung mga tao sa paligid niya parang violent talaga. Or parang magkakaroon din siya ng fear, mag-inflict ng fear sa kanya yun na parang anytime yung mga tao parang sasaktan siya, ganun. Or minsan, naapektuhan din yung pag-aaral niya, di ba, sa mga movies, parang nag-drop out yung bata or hindi nakakapag-perform na maayos. Ganun yung mga epekto or consequences ng pagiging exposed niya sa domestic violence. Meron din na, yun nga yung sa paglaki. Tapos yung behavior na yun, nag-i-step siya sa overwhelming emotional responses niya. Kumbaga, may response yung bata towards sa domestic violence na feel niya, terrorized siya, or kaya fear of death, or kaya grieve over, ito possible worst case scenario to, na grieve over that parent na victim ng domestic violence. Yeah, so meron ding guilt or misplaced responsibility for the violence. So dito na develop yung pinaka-worldview nga nila na parang parang nare-realize nila or na-feel nila na sobrang helpless nila sa buhay kasi nasasaktan na yung parent nila or nakakaranas ng domestic violence tapos parang wala silang magawa, then na-apektuhan din yung pag-iisip nila. So basically, hindi lang yung direct victim ng domestic violence, yung pinaka-biktima. Hindi natin ina-isolate sa perspective na yun kasi meron ding mga exposed, which is nagtitake naman ng emotional toll doon sa victim ng domestic violence.
So, moving forward naman tayo sa perspective ng anthropology. So, traumatic memory of domestic violence is viewed not just as individual psychological issues, but experiences deeply embedded within cultural and social. So, different cultures view domestic violence in different ways. Parang kanina sa dementia na in other culture, it is normal kasi nakakalimot na talaga pag tumatanda, while clinically, meron siyang sakit na madadiagnose. Ganon din dito. What one society calls abuse, other might treat it as normal family matters. And because of this, some people don't even think of their experiences as trauma. One fact is, a study from Kyrgyzstan, many victims felt that kung ano man yung nararanasan nilang domestic violence is dapat nilang tinatago lang sa sarili nila or hindi na dapat nakakalabas ng household. Kasi kapag nangyari, kumalat pa sa ibang tao, parang nagiging kahihiyan siya sa society, sa pamilya, and pwede silang
ng ibang tao kasi para sa ibang tao, normal lang yan na hindi mo dapat ginagawang big deal yan sa pamilya mo lang dapat yan. Ganun yung nararanasan ng ibang biktima. Kaya ang nangyayari is napapatahimik sila at hindi na sila nagsisik ng help from psychologist para lang makarecover dun sa trauma na natamo nila kasi para dun sa mga sinasabi ng ibang tao, lalo na ng pamilya nila na normal lang naman pala yan. So ang pumapasok sa isip ng mga biktima dito sa bansang to is, kung normal lang pala yun, bakit pa ako magsasalita? Bakit pa ako hihingi ng tulong? Diba? So, as a result of this, many traumatic experiences are not publicly acknowledged and many not even call this trauma, internally depending on cultural and social norms. This cultural and social perception discourages victims from speaking out or seeking help. This approach studies how a society's rule, power dynamics, and social structures affect how people go through violence, how they talk about it, and how they remember it, and how they eventually heal from it. So, from the perspective of anthropology, this emphasizes that healing is not just clinical, it is social, relational, and cultural.
Dumako naman tayo sa sociological lens ng domestic violence. So, we also have 3 points, and some of which na-mention na ng people before me. So, the first point is obviously generational trauma. So, domestic violence, as what Aki mentioned earlier na hindi lang yung people involved in the violence itself. It's not just the abuser and the one abused. It's also the people who see it, the people who witness it. And mostly, those are the kids. And usually, it's the kind of trauma, generational trauma kasi nakita siya, nape-perceive siya ng bata. And usually, most times, it gets passed down, which creates a cycle of trauma. And usually, yun yung iniiwasan natin. And that's why people advocate for breaking that cycle of trauma. Next, we have the norms and expectations of society. So usually, domestic violence occurs with hetero families. And with that, merong power dynamic between female and male. And usually, nasasabi na, babae ka eh, so dapat saktan ka ng lalaki. And usually, that's not good kasi pumapasok yung misogyny doon, yung norm or yung expectation na hayaan lang na babae na sinasaktan-saktan siya ng lalaki kasi siya yung provider, siya yung haligi ng tahanan, siya yung mas nakakalamang kesa dun sa girl. And pumapasok dun yung pagiging toxic masculinity ng isang lalaki. Kasi just because you punch a girl means na you're strong enough, which is supposedly not the case. Kasi hindi naman talaga dapat ganun. Next, we have the stigmatization and the silencing. So, magkasama sila. So, when it comes to like people experiencing domestic violence, ayun nga, nasa-stigmatize siya. And like what Harme also says, or CJ said earlier, na nasa-silence yung mga tao kasi sinasabi na, or kinikage sila in this box na ganun yung experience nila hindi valid, yung experience nila that's not real, or yung experience nila that's normal. Ganyan naman talaga yung mga households before, so bakit ngayon it's an issue? And because of that, people are being afraid na magkwento, na magsalita. And because of that, na nagkakaroon ng silencing with the victims themselves and they're not free to express kung ano yung feel nila with that certain thing. If an institution or if a society doesn't challenge these kinds of issues, yung mga victims themselves, nag-build yung life nila or yung self nila into this shame, secrecy, and guilt na fault nila yon, na ganito yung place nila in society, that's why they experience things like that. So,
Now we're down onto our last perspective, which is again the Eastern and Filipino values. But for now, mag-focus na tayo sa Filipino values. Bakit? Kasi Filipino values are deeply rooted in Spanish colonization, Catholicism, and patriarchal norms. So in here, makikita mo talaga kung bakit nagtatribe na rin ang domestic violence in the year 2025. Kaya naman in here, talamak pa rin ang pagkakakita sa pagiging family-oriented as a good trait, which is, again, good trait naman talaga siya. Pero kung sa positive light siya na ilalagay. However, for most cases ng mga Pilipino, hindi siya sa ganung light nakikita dahil ang domestic violence ay nakikita pa rin bilang private issue ng mga families because they like, Filipino families like to keep intact the harmony over safety. Ayun yung pinaka pinaprioritize nila, yung keeping the family intact. They prioritize the family over the individual na nakakaranas nun, most especially women, di ba?
Yeah.
Women are expected to be the ilaw ng tahanan, to be self-sacrificing, selfless, calm, patient, despite the violence they are facing head-on. Kaya naman this pushes the victims to endure what they are suffering. They are expected to endure peace over, telling what happened, telling the story. Kaya naman, parang nakaprogram na talaga na dapat masunod yung lalaki kaysa sa babae, na dapat mag-adjust yung babae kaysa sa lalaki. Dahil when you mix the man's authority is really questioned sa society natin and when you mix that with cultural expectations na good women are quiet, compassionate, and understanding, domestic violence becomes hidden in the mask of pagpapasensya. Kailangan mo kami pagpasensyahan. And most especially yung hiya. Value pa rin ang hiya. ayaw mong mapahiya sa mga kapitbahay mo, ayaw mong maging pulutan ng chismis, ayaw mong madala yung kwento ninyo sa barangay dahil ayaw mong ma-judge ng mga tao. So, you're prioritizing your family's reputation and keeping your family intact kesa sa sarili mo. Kasi dahil nga Catholic values ang pinaka-pinaprioritize din ng mga Pilipino, may sinasabi sila sa kasal na for better or for worse. Ayun yung sinasabi madalas sa homily, sa misa ng kasal, na save the marriage instead of escaping it. You have to save your marriage. Kasi ayun yung pinaka-cultural message natin eh. At natin na wala tayong divorce bill sa Pilipinas. Annulment is so long, it is too expensive, and most of the time inaccessible para sa mga Pilipino. So, for us, kung isa-summarize natin to, legally, socially, and culturally, parang nakapalubot ang victim sa tatlong kadenang to. Dahil patriarchy tells them to obey, Hiya tells them to stay quiet, religion tells them to preserve the marriage, and law tells them that they can't leave. Kaya domestic violence becomes a cycle. It's a part of our lives now, but shouldn't be.
Kaya naman, kita-kits sa next podcast dito lang sa Love!